Hello people. I want to talk a little bit in the video about Facebook. I don't think any introduction is really necessary. It's one of the most famous social networking sites in the world, and I think it's the biggest. Not long ago it just hit a milestone of over 1 billion users, and another milestone, which is that it's 10 years old, began in 2004. If you've seen the film The Social Network, it's a good film. It shows the background to Mark Zuckerberg, and I think the other guy's called Dustin Moskovich and Eduardo Saverin. Of course, Zuckerberg's the most famous of the founders, and there's others connected with Facebook as well. These guys were basically at college, and it was an experiment, and from there they became some of the youngest billionaires in history. I think Zuckerberg actually got that record. I've been using Facebook almost since it began. I think I started at university. A German friend of mine introduced me to it, and I sort of started then. And since then, I've really utilized a lot of what it offers. I have a pretty crowded Facebook page. I'm not going to put it here for security reasons, but basically, I'm involved in a lot of groups and a lot of like pages. I've had to edit it down a bit. I've got over 800 contacts there. I'm not saying that to boast, just as a matter of showing that Facebook is a way of connecting people. A lot of those are people with mutual interests in groups, friends, of course, family, and so on. I'd have to say overall my Facebook experience is probably about 6 out of 10. In this video I just want to make a little bit of a critical analysis of my experience on Facebook so far. On the positive side, I think Facebook is a great medium for campaigning, for finding mutual interests, for meeting people, for reconnecting with people. Certainly it's been a great way of keeping in touch with people. Even when I was in China, of course Facebook is blocked there, but I used a VPN, which is software to get through Chinese censorship. A lot of my Chinese friends also use that. That has helped me keep in touch with people here. And I found it a great way to sort of express my support for political campaigns, for humanitarian campaigns, for a wide range of issues. Also just express likes, and I guess I spend my Facebook time sort of threefold. First of all is sharing my reflections, pretty similar to what I do on YouTube, more or less a similar sort of approach I take, for keeping in touch with friends and family. Thirdly, just for relaxing. Believe it or not, even though I might come across as quite a serious person in these videos, I do like to relax as much as the next person, and I enjoy games like Candy Crush, Diamond Dash. Is there any of those games that you like? Monster World, I think it's called. That got quite addictive. So all those things I'd have to say are a plus point, and Facebook's role in the world has been absolutely massive. I mean, it's been used to basically influence revolutions, uprisings. I think it's fair to say it had a very major role in the Arabian Spring, still does, as did Twitter and MySpace and other social networks. Authoritarian regimes around the world fear Facebook, so it's incredibly influential, which makes Mark Zuckerberg and the others some of the most influential young men on the planet. Very powerful in that sense. I think it is more good than bad. However, I have seen certain things about Facebook that I personally don't like. I mentioned it can be influential in terms of spreading humanitarian campaigns and so on. Like everything on the internet, that can also be used to a detrimental effect. You get issues like cyberbullying. I've seen groups that are little short of lynch mobs that have sadistic sort of agendas, frankly, whether they be jihadist groups or whether they be far-right groups or whether they be just idiots who have heard rumours about someone and then they use this as a medium to stir up vitriol against that person. From that point of view, it can be used for very detrimental effects. And like all social networking groups, there's a staff probably of little more than 50 people trying to monitor all of this, so it's very, very, very difficult to police this. And I've seen examples of cyberbullying online. I've reported it, and it's stayed there. Now, I don't think it's fair to blame the Facebook staff for that. They can only do so much, but it is definitely a flaw with this. There's other areas I don't like. I've just tried to create a group in order to spread awareness of an event that I'm going to. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But frustratingly, some of the new settings that Facebook has sort of put out there are actually creating barriers. For example, when I went to set up this group, it gives me an option of basically adding people to the group. Now, I think that's counterproductive because I want to encourage people to come to the event. I don't want to impose that on them. I don't want to put them in the group without their consent. But that is, it seems to be the only option it is giving me. If you know this better than me, maybe you could give me some advice if you know how these new settings work. Because I've tried to set up this group, and the option seems to be that you're adding people, but it's not an optional case. You add them, whether they want to be added or not. Now that's only going to understandably breed resentment. I wouldn't like to be added to a group without my consent. So it's stupid. It should be a choice of inviting people, which is already the case with the event page. But why not the case with the group page? That's just silly. That leads me on to the next point. Facebook quite recently made a lot of these sort of changes to security and so on, and some of it probably is for the better. But there's something rather undemocratic about the way Facebook goes about things. And I do think that, whilst I respect them, I do think the guys at the top are getting a little bit arrogant and basically just taking it for granted that there's over 1 billion supporters. Although I did hear recently that younger people are actually starting to get turned off Facebook and going to other social networking sites. But I do think that there's a slightly arrogant side to the people who run this, in that they're making these changes, frankly, it seems, without consulting the very people that use and support the site. Now, on one hand you could argue, well, it's free, so you can't really complain about it. But on the other hand, it is the users that make Facebook. Without the users, then those guys wouldn't be as wealthy as they are, because they would not have got this far. So it is a mutual situation as it is, whilst it is free. Of course I'm grateful for the medium that it provides, but I don't like the idea where these changes are just made and users aren't consulted. It should be a case of garnering basically what politicians need to do, which is garner people's opinions and sort of consult views on matters. For example, should we take this approach? Get a poll of users and then work with whatever the majority says. That seems to be, I do think Facebook should take a democratic approach. But just doing things without consulting the people who support the site seems a bit, I don't like it. I mean, to suddenly make changes without consulting the very people that use the site just seems a bit stupid to me. Now people might say, oh well, it's a choice, you can leave. That's true, but I'm already very involved in Facebook, and it just, I feel I'm a loyal user, so surely people who support the site should have some insight, some say as to how it goes forward, rather than the people at the top just imposing these decisions and saying we're going to change this and you basically have no say in the matter. And then we sort of become like sheep. Now, I don't agree with those people who say that it's like Big Brother, and because there is that choice factor. You can leave whenever you want, no one's forcing you to be in Facebook. But I think the people at the top do need to respect the opinions of those who are using the site, rather than just making these decisions without consulting anyone. It should be a case of conducting routine opinions of people who use the site. Questions like, should we have settings in this way? Should we have settings in that way? It should be that sort of democratic consensus, rather than just making these changes. Now maybe people won't agree with me on that, but that's the way I feel about it. I don't think it should be a case of the people at the top just doing whatever they want, basically. Yes, it's a free site, but again, without the support of the people who regularly use Facebook, it wouldn't be as big as it is. So it's a bit like if you go into a coffee shop. In the UK, you get something called loyalty cards, and every time you go, you get it stamped, and on the 10th time, you get a free drink. Likewise, people who regularly use social networking sites, I think the CEOs of those sites need to care about their opinions. I think Facebook has got to slightly arrogant, where they just do what they want, basically. There is also the issue of security in the sense of not just other users, but actually what governments can view online. It is a legitimate issue. Personally, I don't lose a lot of sleep over it. It's not like a #1 issue for me, but I'm slightly wary of it. And I do feel slightly uncomfortable with my information being shared with anybody. You know, I've no problem with groups that I have subscribed to getting my information, because I've made the choice to share it. I've made the choice to put myself into that group. Or if I do a certain opinion, say from a political party, and they say we can access your information, I don't have a big problem with that. You know, if it's things like where I live, my date of birth and so on, those things are relatively harmless. And I appreciate, for example, political parties need to have a certain amount of information so that they know what the public wants, so that they can garner opinion. You know, people can't turn around and say, oh, politicians don't care, if we don't give them any information in order to work from opinions. So certain data I really don't mind handing that over. I don't lose sleep over the situation at present. Nevertheless, I am slightly wary of the extent of it. I mean, you know, we heard about the backlash from the NSA scandal, and that's still ongoing. So I'm slightly wary about that. Like I say, overall I give Facebook 6 out of 10. Definitely, if I was to suggest one improvement, it would be just a bit more democratic, and maybe, I don't know, ask users their opinions much more often. I would like to see surveys, basically just asking users what they would like. I think there is a medium for providing feedback, but there needs to be something a bit more established. So let me know if you use Facebook. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know how long you've been using it, and if you just want to add any comments to what I've said. Okay, thank you.